Welcome to this tutorial of Mufasa. So the first thing that we're going to do is fold the base. And it's actually a traditional bird base. So we're going to fold in half diagonally twice. And make sure your paper is color side up. Turn it over. Do 2 book folds. And you start off with a square base, and then from here we're going to do 2 petal folds to make the bird base. Let's follow these pre-creases. And we have the traditional bird base. Now from here, we are going to do all the folds that make Mufasa. So first, fold the front flap down. Let's rotate it. This is the position of Mufasa's face from this point forward. So the first thing we're going to work with is the nose. Raise this middle flap. And then this tip, you're going to fold it down just a little bit. There is no reference point, so you decide how far you want it to go. But generally, you want this fold to be small. And you're going to make two more folds on the corners. So these folds are going to meet right in the middle. Fold the middle flap back down. That already takes care of the nose. Now let's work on the mouth. To fold the mouth, you're going to do a pleat fold. So raise this tip to the crease. and then fold it down. Again, there's no reference point. So you just have to know how far you want to bring this down. Just make sure that you have enough space between the lip and the nose. And I'd say the deeper your pleat is, the better that you'll be able to shape the mouth later at the end. Now let's work on the first set of crimp folds. There's a lot of crimp folds on Mufasa. So this first set will automatically make this origami 3D. So let's start on this side. Follow this line with a valley fold. A valley fold means that you're folding forward, toward you. So right along this line. And notice where it stops. It's going to stop midway. So midway would be that corner. And the way that it's going to pop out, you want it to pop out like a mountain. And notice that this is part of shaping, but notice how my crease is not fully along this edge. This is just a reference. So let your crease deviate a little bit from the edge. And as you can see, right after I stopped midway, I made a pinch. And this pinch is a mountain fold, so that means folding backward. And with this valley and mountain, you can complete your crimp. Let's do it again on this side. So those are your first two crimp folds. And then to complete it, we're going to do mountain creases to shape his mouth. But before we do that, let's hide these two flaps. They're going right behind the middle flap. And then you can pinch to make those mountain creases. Okay, so that takes care of Mufasa's mouth. And we're going to work our way up by adding creases along his face. So what you're going to do now is you're going to fold this in half. And you're going to make an inside reverse fold. You're using this inside reverse fold to help you make these. You're going to make these mountain creases over here that make his nose. So the purpose of these inside reverse folds is to keep them symmetrical to each other. And then undo your inside reverse folds. And just reinforce the mountain creases. You want these creases to stop at that crease. And you have to forget about that tip. This tip does not matter anymore. And then you're going to make your second set of crimps. So you already have these mountain creases, and then from here, where the creases intersect, you're going to create a valley that runs toward that corner. Repeat on the other side. And then don't forget to reinforce the creases you already made by his mouth. You can even bend his nose down a little bit, even crease it. By reinforcing these creases, you don't lose his shape. And now we're going to make angle bisecting folds. So from the corner of his nose, you're going to bring this raw edge to that crease. And again, reinforce this crease. Repeat on the other side. And then from here, unfold those flaps. And we're going to go all the way to the top where his mane is. And unfold those creases that made the bird base. And we're going to turn it over. And let's do one flap at a time. Raise this up along this crease. Put your finger in this side pocket. And you're going to do a squash fold. Now I'm going to turn it over because there are creases and edges that help you align your squash. So I want this crease to align with this crease. And naturally, this flap, the edge of this flap will align with that crease too. And then these edges will align. Here's what the squash looks like in the front and in the back. Let's repeat that again on the other side. Make sure that your creases are reinforced. You don't lose the shape of his mouth and nose. So this is the beginning of his mane. And before we continue with his eyes and his forehead, we're going to trim his mane over here by his cheeks. So to do that, we're going to perform swivel folds. So to make a swivel fold, let's take this flap and push it up. And now it's starting to slide. So to squish it down, you want these two edges to align. And then you could squish it. Now it's a little trimmer. Now let's focus our attention on these two creases. These are the angle bisecting creases that you made earlier, and they serve as your pre-creases. So you want to follow that valley. This is technically your third set of crimp folds. And this crease will end at that crease over here. And then you're going to complete it with a mountain fold. And when you do that, this edge should align with this crease over here. And then this part will also crease. And now what you're going to do is, this is very simultaneous. You want to create new mountain creases over here. Notice that how this is sticking out like a mountain. You want it to puff out like a mountain. And then along this mountain, you're going to make new mountain folds. So right here from that corner, and then running right along this edge, and it will stop at that corner. Once again, reinforce the creases. Remember what I said about that tip looking crease? Disregard it. Let's repeat all of that on the other side. Okay. Very important to really crease on all of your creases so you don't lose the shape. And you see how there's a shape along his mouth? Try to see if you can get that. And these mountain creases are already forming his eyebrows. His nose is really popping out now. Now we're going to work to flatten and shape his forehead. So with these puffed out corners, from there to there, create a mountain. So these three mountain folds create a singular line. Now we're going to do about another 2 sets of crimp folds. So you could try to make valleys along these mountains. And notice that it ends at the corner. So it creates that pivot. So it looks a little circular. And then to flatten everything out, there's going to be another crimp. I'll start on this side over here. So from this corner to this intersection, pinch with a mountain. Make sure you're creasing on those creases, and then finish it off with a valley. And then this part of the mane is puffing out like a mountain again. So let's repeat that on the other side. Okay. Reinforce the creases. You have his whole face now. These creases shape his head. And the last thing to do is to mountain fold all 4 tips. I'll start with his mouth. Okay. So this is the general look of Mufasa. Those are the folds that we use to make Mufasa. Now stay tuned for the second part of our tutorial on how to shape Mufasa.